Okay, this video is about finding a reference angle. So if you look at it, that is 30 degrees. And as we move along around it, this would right here be 150 degrees. And then we're at 210. And then we're at 330. You can see that they make the exact same triangle. They make this like little bow tie if you connect all of those angles. And they have the same values, plus or minus, obviously with the sign. But if you knew the value at 30 degrees, then you also know the value at 150, at 210, and at 330. All you would have to do is subtract. So from here to here is 150 degrees. So if we think of this right here, from here to here, that's 180 degrees. Then what's left in here would be 180 minus 150, which is our 30-degree reference angle. And so if you knew that that was 30, well, you already know sine of 30 is a half, then you would also know that sine of 150 is a half. We can also look at it in the next quadrant. So from here to here is 210 degrees. And we also know that from here to here is again 180. So this would be 210 minus 180 is also 30 degrees. And so at a 30-degree, sine is a half, which means 210 sine would be negative 1/2. Let's move on to the next one. So from here to here is 330 degrees. And so if we're trying to find this little angle here, then you think again, that is 360. So this would be 360, take away 330. Now this applies to every single angle in quadrant 4. If I do this one is 315 degrees. It would still be 315 degrees to get to here. So it'd be 360, take away 315. And that would give you that same angle, which is 45 degrees. Both of these are 45. So let's see how this is used. So for quadrant 1, it is the angle itself. And then remember for quadrant 2, we did 180 take away whatever our angle was. For quadrant 3, it was our angle take away 180. And then for the final one, it was 360 take away our angle. So if it's quadrant 1, it would just be theta. For quadrant 2, it's 180 degrees minus theta. For quadrant 3, it's theta minus 180 degrees. And then for quadrant 4, it's 360 degrees minus theta. And that will give us our reference angle. So if you had 225, we know that that is in quadrant 3. So if we do 225 minus 180, that would give us 45. So this is really sine of 45 degrees, and then you just have to think about the sine. So if we're in quadrant 3, we know that sine is negative, which means you would just put a negative in front. So sine of 225 will be the same as sine of negative 45. So that would be square root of 2 over 2, and then negative. So what we did is we took the 225, subtracted 180 and got it was 45. And said, well, at 45, it's square root of 2 over 2. So then it would be negative radical 2 over 2. And yes, you can use a unit circle to find all these values. It's a lot quicker, but it's nice to have a second method. So radians work the same way. 7 pi over 4 is quadrant 4. So we know that cosine is positive no matter what. So we just need that reference angle. So 2 pi is all the way around, minus 7 pi over 4. That would be pi over 4. So cosine of 7 pi over 4 is the same as cosine of pi over 4, which again would be rad 2 over 2. So you notice I didn't have to use a unit circle at all. All I have to do is memorize from 0 to 90, and everything will work out. Okay, 2 pi over 3. We know that that is quadrant 2. Tangent we know is negative. So now all we need is that one reference angle. And here's where it starts to become very, very quick. You know it's 2 pi over 3. So as you move through the circles, it's pi over 3, 2 pi over 3, 4 pi over 3, 5 pi over 3. See, they have that same situation as we go through. Your 0, 90, or 0 pi over 2 pi, and 3 pi over 2, they all reduce. So it's all denominator 3's. So you see pi over 3, you already know it's pi over 3 because of what it is. And so what do we get for pi over 3? It's rad 3. So this would just be negative radical 3. And then it works the same thing with secant. Secant is the reciprocal of cosine. So negative 45 means we are in quadrant 4. So we know that cosine will be positive. We know that our secant will be positive. And so all you really have to do is go, oh, that's a secant of 45 degrees. You can just quickly change it back to positive. And then what is secant of 45? It's square root of 2. So it's a way to do things mentally. So you don't have to memorize an entire unit circle. You just memorize quadrant 1 and then find the angle that it makes with the bow tie. So as you go from 45 to 135 to 225 to 315, they each make these bow ties for each. So if you just find that one reference angle, it'll tell you where everything is. And then as you go through your 60s, it makes those same bow ties, and your 30s. So each of those green is a 30, each of the red is a 45, and each of the purple is a 60. So there you go.